The thyroid gland and the hypophysis are other organs that emerge in the region of the cranial or oral part of the GIT. We already know that the ectodermal stomodium forms the primitive embryonic oral cavity. The roof of stomodium protrudes into a pouch called the Rathke's pouch. It's right in front of the oropharyngeal membrane, behind which there's already endoderm of the pharynx, forming also a small pouch, and then there's the wall of the pharynx. And immediately behind the oropharyngeal membrane, there is a invaginating tube growing downwards caudally and dorsally, and it's called the thyroglosal duct that will form the thyroid gland. This thyroglosal duct grows through a region where the mesenchyma of the second and third pharyngeal pouch will condensate, and it grows towards the artery of the third pharyngeal arch, which is the carotid artery. So let's label the scheme. This will be the stomodium. It's a sagittal or even median section. And this is the stomodium lined with the ectoderm, from which this pouch grows. It's called the Rathke's pouch. R-A-T-H-K-E. Rathke's pouch. Then we got the oropharyngeal membrane, behind which there is a pharynx lined with the endoderm. It also forms a small pouch called Sessels, S-E-E-S-S-E-L, Sessels pouch, but it is not involved in the development of the other organs. And from the endoderm there grows the thyreoglossal duct, around which the hyoid blastema, is the blastema of the hyoid bone, is condensating. In embryology, the word blastema denotes cell population with potential to form another structure in the future. So it's the mesenchyma of second and third pharyngeal arch. And the end of the thyroglosal duct grows towards the common carotid artery, which is the artery of the third pharyngeal arch, because it's the third aortic arch running through the third pharyngeal arch. So here will be the body of the tongue and the region of the first arch, and here we will be in the endodermal region, the region of the radix of tongue. Now if we make a frontal section, Here in the region of the radix of the tongue, we can demonstrate that where the ductus thyroglossus used to be, we now got a foramen cecum. Here was the ductus thyroglossus, and the end of this duct forms the thyroid gland. So the isthmus and the right and the left lobe. Here, this mesenchyma gives rise to the body of the hyoid bone. In the vicinity of the thyroid gland, we can find the internal carotid arteries, and the thyreoglossal duct disappears. Sometimes this part can persist. It results in anatomical variety of the so-called pyramidal lobe, which is like an accessory lobe of the thyroid gland. So this will be the foramen cecum. On the root of the tongue, the thyroglosal duct disappears. So this is obliteration. Thyroglosal duct disappears. Here will be the site of the body of the hyoid bone. And this is the thyroid gland with the right and left lobe. And this is the isthmus, the connecting part. And these are the internal carotid arteries. Arteries of the third arch. Why do we care about this mechanism is that there is quite a long pathway between connecting the origin of the thyroglosal duct on the radius of the tongue and the final anatomical position of the thyroid gland. Anywhere in between there might be potentially remnants of the thyroglosal duct in some individuals, and these remnants might have a form of cysts lined with epithelium that might or might not be actively in endocrine secretion, so-called medial cervical cysts. And also this accessory pyramidal lobe that gives some extra volume to the right lobe, left lobe, isthmus. So it's kind of a remnant of this duct. Pyramidal lobe. The body of the hyoid bone is from the pharyngeal, from the second and third pharyngeal arch, mesenchyma. Now we go back to this Rathke's pouch. So stomodium with a Rathke's pouch or a pharyngeal membrane. The endoderm here. The point is that there is a diencephalon here in the vicinity forming the infundibulum of the hypothalamus. So stomodium. Rathke's pouch. And this is the diencephalon with the infundibulum. And in the next step, the oropharyngeal membrane breaks down. So there is a continuity between the mouth cavity and the pharynx. The Rathke's pouch forms a Rathke's vesicle. So here's the membrane that breaks down. And we got an independent Rathke's vesicle that travels towards the infundibule of the hypothalamus. Finally, these two components will fuse together. So we got the diencephalon, or it's a lower part called the hypothalamus, that forms this this stalk of the hypophysis, and the neurohypophysis made of nervous tissue. So this is nervous tissue continuous with the hypothalamus of the diencephalon. The Rathke's vesicle will adhere here and it will form the distal part on the contact between these two. There might be some cavities lined with epithelium like cysts, and there is this tuberal part embracing the stalk in a section. So we got an organ. The hypophysis as a whole organ has two completely different components with completely different histological structure and completely different embryonic origin. So here is the third ventricle, third brain ventricle, the diencephalon, or the hypothalamus of the diencephalon, with its neurosecretory nuclei that are sending axons via the stalk of the neurohypophysis. While this would be the distal part, this large one, and the tuberal part of the adenohypophysis. Adenohypophysis. And there is the intermediate part and the contact that might contain small cavities lined with epithelium. We call it these cysts. Later on, also the mesenchyma of the sphenoid bone will condensate around these hypophysis, forming the so-called Turkish saddle of the sphenoid bone. That will become part of the basis of the skull. So here is, this is direction anterior this is posterior for the purpose of this scheme.